Welcome on in, trainers. My name is Telegraph Train. I'm joined by Hurricane Kaz.
Hello, everybody. So excited to be here and format these exciting battles for y'all in this new tournament.
And we'll be here showcasing not just the skills of these battlers, but also the Zygarden website and platforms so that everyone can see how to utilize this new tool for the community.
Yes, it's very exciting to see another way for players to come together, join this large community.
Now, we've got 8 battlers here from all over the world. We have LNDS, Steinar, Axon, Softov, Mish, Zardy, Final Boss AJ, Riblet, and Palasha97 joining us for this tournament. Who are you
So
most
many.
excited to see?
Yeah, oh my gosh. Do I have to pick just one?
I guess if you had to pick two, who are you wanting to see play today?
Honestly, I'm very much looking forward to seeing Miss um, and Paul Lasha, obviously.
Nice.
Those are actually the first two that we're going to have up today. And it's going to be an awesome clash between these two talented lady battlers.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing them. I know Mish is a local to one of my good friends, Bubble Mouse. So definitely excited to see her battling. And Palasha has been uh, one of my favorites to win worlds this year. So I'm excited to see how she does in this tournament since we do have a new meta now as of this March, I think 3rd or 4th it started. So everything is totally new and different, where this is the first weekend where all of the new moves that have been added to Pokemon are viable. And so I know everyone is looking forward to, what do I run? What is the new meta? How do I win the next regional? Is Blastoise it? Is it Lapras?
Or Credilli. Credilli is a longtime favorite of mine, and I'm really excited that it got some love with this update. And we're going to be looking at our usage a little bit later, but I do see quite a bit of Credilli on that list, and I, for one, am very excited. Also, all the Psywave users coming into play now. It's going to be really interesting. We did have a couple of Play Pokemon regionals last weekend that showed off just a few of these changes that were allowed since they were on Pokemon that already had those moves. But now the gates are totally open, and these teams are going to be much different than we've been seeing so far in the 2025 season.
Yeah, definitely seeing everything fully open and available to be used now is going to be uh, interesting to see how things shake up. We did have Vancouver last weekend with sort of a halfway meta where Rise was able to take it all to continue his streak of being the only individual to win a tournament in every playable season.
Four
But
times. What an
yeah,
achievement.
okay. But why don't we head on over and see what the tournament format is going to be for the day?
Hello, passionate trainers. My name is Telegraph Train, and together with Zygarden, I'm absolutely thrilled to dive into the exhilarating format of today's tournament. Top trainers from every corner of the globe have come together for this momentous occasion. Today, our fierce battlers will face off in the electrifying Show 6 Pick 3 format of the Great League. Each competitor has meticulously crafted a team of 6 Pokemon, hand-picking 3 of them for every intense battle. As they gaze upon their opponent's formidable team, the challenge ignites the fire within, compelling them to strategize and choose the perfect trio to claim victory. Every match, a gritty best 2 out of 3 will push the limits of skill and determination. Our tournament adopts a thrilling Swiss bracket format, ensuring that every brave soul will fight valiantly through all rounds. At the end of it all, only the top 4 standout players will ascend to a heart-pounding single elimination top cut, where only one can rise as champion. Wishing you all the best of luck, dear trainers. Let your spirits soar as we unite on the battlefield.
These battlers are going to break it down.
Yes, it is a small tournament, but all of these trainers are so well known throughout the community for the strength of their Pokemon and the teams that they put together. It's going to be really interesting to see them duke it out on this new battlefield the fabulous team over at Zygarden has set up.
Yeah, everything is looking real nice. I'm ready to enter the Zygarden.
It's true. It's so lush and beautiful here. And again, we've hinted a little bit at this new meta, but these trainers are sort of duking it out probably for the first time. So I am excited to see their picks on the battlefield.
Yeah, I think looking at some of the other formats that or to other tournaments that I've seen have been going on, Drapion does still seem to be very much top meta. Out of the old meta, I think that is probably going to be the most significant Pokemon that has been able to keep its place in the top 6.
Yeah, honestly, and the disappearance of Azumarill from kind of our data that we have here is really interesting because it's been such a staple for so long, and it gives such a good chance for other Pokemon to shine. I already mentioned Credilli, but I'm also really looking forward to see that Galarian Weezing and its wild card moveset come into play today.
Yeah, I do think I remember you talking about in the Battle Cats most recent podcast about how Azumarill is in the meta, but it's never really in the meta as a water type. It's just kind of there for the bulk, for the neutrality, and if you want water damage, Azu isn't the choice Pokemon.
Yeah, I think those are the literal words I use. Like, it's not a water Pokemon. Like, it is a fairy Pokemon. So seeing it kind of like make room for some of these more diverse picks that have, wild moveset options. We have a lot of fast-paced charged attacks now to deal with. It's not really the same fast attack meta that we've seen in previous years. So the movesets can be pretty flexible on a lot of these Pokemon, like Drapion, like Galarian Weezing. And also now we have a lot more options for Claydol, even Mandibuzz,
That's true. I do think I see a lot more Mandibuzz now able to run the fast flying move damage move set because of the changes that were made to foul play being a faster move. Not only has that allowed that to come into play, but also an old favorite of the meta, Sableye.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that Sableye is back in full force. And I have surprised quite a few trainers in the Go Battle League with that dazzling gleam. And it's amazing every time.
Yeah, I think the first time I hit Legend was back in Season 7 with Galarian, Stunfisk, Venusaur, and Sableye. And that team...
Gosh, that was a team I used too!
Yeah, I mean, it was... yeah, I mean, that team was so strong. And I think I ran it probably for Season 7, 8, 9, and 10 before they finally made enough meta changes in that. I think Season 10 was the interlude season where everyone was here's a Pika Libre on us, no shinies. And then Season 11 we got a huge amount of changes.
Yes, exactly. Sableye, it's interesting. Like, it's not like it ever became a worse Pokemon because of the move update. It's
Mhm.
just that it didn't really shine as much as so many other things that got buffed. So I'm really glad that they went back and gave this little dart gremlin some attention, so
Yeah,
that we
well,
can all see it on the field again.
yeah, the pacing of Sableye used to be top tier. Getting to a charge move in 6 fast moves, or I guess, well, 12 turns. Oh, there we go. It looks like we do have Palasha and Mish on the screen right now. Already jumping into their first battle, we see a Furret versus a Shadow Drapion.
Oh my gosh, Furret got some love. Drapion is still here, but here we do see one of our Azumarill coming on to the field on the side of Mish.
Yeah, so looks like a quick swap out, and we do see Palasha deciding to stay in and throw the crunch, do some poison jabs, and getting the defense fall right there before swapping into the Furret, which does now have super effective damage with the Trailblaze. But the Azu is a bulky Pokemon, so it's able to throw that Play Rough and still hang in there. But looks like Palasha is going to overfarm a little bit, throwing good move timing, get to this Trailblaze. Will this KO?
There was the defense drop, and this will boost the attack of the Furret, and it doesn't quite KO, but that is a lot of damage. I do think this play rough is enough to knock out, so we do see the shield from Paul Lasha to protect the energy she still has on her own Furret.
I was absolutely huge, just barely hanging in there, surviving the sucker punches that came right after in order to be able to force the shield. So that way, in order to maintain the switch advantage that Palasha is wanting to have, she had to give up a shield there. And so now Misha is able to come in with her own Furret in order to be able to neutralize a lot of this energy, but she's actually running Brick Break. Oh my goodness, Palasha comes in, predicts the move, makes a catch onto the Shadow Drapion. This is neutral damage, and the sucker punches are resisted, but no, it's a quick swap out now to herself into the Claydol.
Yes, that was a really great play by Mish, getting not only like having that brick break instead, but actually throwing that instead of the Trailblaze, wanting that defense drop so that these mud slaps from the incoming Claydol can very quickly get rid of that Drapion, putting this Claydol in a pretty strong position with energy advantage into the end game here. We do see the Golisopod coming back in from the side of Palasha, but will have to take a Rock Tomb. Oh my gosh, that's so much damage.
That's a lot of damage, and that is a shiny Golisopod looking at us right there. Very much love the colors on it. It's got a new faster pacing with Aqua Jet now, being able to get there so much faster, and looks like going to have a quick swap out. Claydol's not going to make it to another move, but Palasha banked a move. She counter swaps, gets off the Swift. I don't think this is going to be enough to KO. She might get farmed down here.
Yes, I do think that she might, but no, the Mish gets the advantage on her for with 1 HP and has just enough energy to send a brick break over to the incoming Golisopod. This would be enough to knock out, even though resisted. So we do see the last shield going up from Palasha there, but Claydol comes back in from Mish with energy and has it ready for the Rock Tomb on that Golisopod.
I was absolutely incredible plays on both sides. Trainers swapping out with energy, able to land some combo plays, get some farm downs. But I think that 1 HP live on that for it was huge, huge in being able to dictate the flow of the game there. Because if that were a simultaneous knockout, Mish did have a shield there. Um, and if she had not been able to throw that a brick break to get the shield from Paul Asha, then it would have been even shields, and it might have come down to a fast move off, or see who's going to make it to that charge move, that Golisopod versus that Claydol.
Yeah, the Claydol is bulky, but the Golisopod is much faster. So having that little bit of energy advantage exchange in the Furret mirror match, I think was really beneficial for Misha's side. And actually demonstrating, the difference in the attacks there, like going for the brick break instead of the stab swift that recently got buffed as well, actually put Misha in a really strong position to debuff her opponent and maintain energy on her own turret there.
Yeah, that was some quick plays, some nice dance work, being able to make those swaps back and forth. But in both of those scenarios, Misha's IVs really came in clutch. The Azu and the Furret just barely able to getting off their moves. As they jump into game two, we do see the Shadow Galarian Weezing into the Azumarill. This is a fantastic matchup for the Shadow Galarian Weezing. The Sludge now is able to knock Azu out in two.
Yes, but we do see Paul Lasha over farming a little bit, going for that excellent timing and a little extra energy before throwing the first sludge, which does get shielded by Mish before she goes for this ice beam.
Yeah, and although it is super effective damage coming in from the Galarian Weezing, that it is so glassy and fragile that you can see how much damage these bubbles are doing. So that the ice beam would have been huge damage, but this isn't a brutal swing, folks. This is an overheat coming in over on Paul Ash's side. Oh my goodness, that's some heavy damage right there.
That was really well played by Paul Lasha, anticipating that there was going to be an attempted catch and holding on to throw that powerful overheat and really knock Misha's own Furret down a peg before bringing in her own Furret and taking advantage of this situation to get some extra energy.
All right, now we've got a Furret, even shields. Palasha is controlling Switch. This is a good scenario for her, but this is a Primate coming in. It is a very glassy Pokemon. It's got some fast-pacing charge moves, only needing 4 in order to get to the Rage Fist, but Rage Fist is going to be Ghost on normal damage, so instead we do see Mish committing both shields. Palasha should be able to get off all of her energy, making a quick swap into her Galarian Weezing after getting all of Misha's shields. And now looks like we are going to see Mish try and get off all of her energy here.
Yes,
oh,
this is a really nice situation for Paul Lasha and this Galarian Weezing, knowing that even without a shield, the Galarian Weezing at low health could take one Rage Fist and double resist those karate chops to get to that sludge. And now catching another sludge on to Misha's Azumarill. How much damage will this do? Almost knocking out the Azumarill, getting it far down into the red. It has a lot of energy, but the Paul Lasha still has a Furret in play and is able to pace to that Swift to get this Azumarill off the field.
Yeah, Palasha had a very commanding game in order to be able to make a comeback in this matchup to tie up the score to go 1-1. Being able to land that overheat on her Galarian Weezing was absolutely huge on that Furret. Get the farm down, control Switch at even shields.
Yeah,
beautiful plays.
Yes, absolutely. And that Galarian Weezing really showed off its strength in this new meta, how quickly you can pace even to that super powerful overheat. And a lot of really great control by Palasha shown there, knowing that that switch was coming. The question is when. The question is always when we're in these battles against talented trainers, but demonstrating that she had control of the situation.
Yeah, the Galarian Weezing has a very terrifying pacing for Azumarill. I believe it's 5-4 for the Sludge now. So that is going to be far faster than Azumarill is going to be able to pace. So being able to bank some energy, swap out, is huge there. And so in looking at the Galarian Weezing, I was thinking about if Brutal Swing is even necessary because of how fast the pacing to Sludge is. And looks like Palasha decided, no, I don't need the Brutal Swing bait. I can have that overheat ready for anything that comes in that thinks is going to be able to make a catch, is going to make a clever play. Overheat is going to punish them.
Yeah, exactly. It's not this new meta, overheat is not resisted by a lot of things. So keeping that high damage attack can prove really advantageous. As we get into our third battle, we see that Azumarill coming out again from Mish against the Golisopod from Palasha. This is a pretty interesting matchup. Golisopod able to do a lot of neutral damage with Shadow Claw alone, but both charged attacks are resisted onto this Azumarill.
Yeah, some people might think that this plays out a little bit similar to the way that a Feraligatr does against the Azumarill, but as you can see, that Aqua Jet does almost nothing,
Mhm.
and that Play Rough here is going to be doing chunks of damage. So this is not it's a definite loss for the Golisopod, but it's
Mhm.
not such a hard loss that I'm unsurprised to see Palasha staying in here, as she does have the Glaring Wheezing and Furret in the back. It's going to be interesting to see who is going to get the alignment they need, because I think that Misha's Claydol is very happy to see that Golisopod out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. And we do see in the back that Mish has brought the Skeledirge this time. And that Skeledirge might prove, to be a secret key here for her victory if she can get some energy advantage on it. I'll be interested to see the moveset we have available. We see the Furret coming onto the field from Palasha to get a little bit of extra energy, and Claydol now coming in. I guess out of the two choices that you have that don't want to see Sucker Punch, this is probably the one that can take it a little bit better on the chin.
Yeah, so it was a difficult situation since that Furret is able to do super effective with its Sucker Punch fast attack to both Skeledirge and Claydol. I guess maybe she's not predicting the Galarian Wheezing in the back, because that would have a tremendous matchup against the with the Claydol. But no, actually Palasha actually banking or throwing the Trailblaze over onto the Skeledirge catch made by Mish, preserving some energy on the Claydol, but now those Sucker Punches are going to be super boosted, and this is
Oh my
terrifying damage.
gosh, that is so much damage onto that Skeledirge in such a short amount of time, despite resisting the both of the charged attacks here. The Sucker Punch alone is stacking so much damage, but Galarian Wheezing comes out
Oh,
in the back from Palasha. We do have a brief bit of lag there. Looked like it applied to both players, as they were both paused there for a moment. Galarian Wheezing doesn't. This is one place where the move set of that Sludge Overheat is not as desirable. We do see the new Torch Song coming across from the Skeledirge over on Misha's side.
I'm curious to see how much damage this does, because I know, whoa, that is some massive damage.
So much, but the Galarian Wheezing does now have the Overheat ready with its 1 HP to throw onto this Claydol that remains from Mish. And does the Incinerate go through in time? It does! Just barely knocking out that Galarian Wheezing before all of the damage could come through. Oh my gosh. What
Wow,
a
that
final match between these two trainers.
that was incredible. I could not tell you who was going to win that game. When I saw that Sucker Punch damage coming in from the Furret, I was not expecting that. I thought, okay, Misha's positioned herself beautifully, and then I thought the Skeledirge was going to cook, and it was getting cooked. And then we saw the correct shield with the Shadow Ball, and I'm like, oh no, there's not enough time. There's not enough time.
Mhm.
It's going to go down to those fairy winds. But Skeledirge able to just barely hold out, survive on 1 HP, and get the Incinerate down. That was
Oh
incredible.
my gosh. That's actually really nice to see because so often Incinerate feels like it takes ages before that damage comes through. And sometimes that is the key to the loss there. But here it was actually just barely able to make it in time for Mish there. Yeah, oh my gosh, the power of that double boosted Sucker Punch just wailing away on both Claydol and the Skeledirge in the back there. But I was happy that we got to see the new Torch Song move, which does increase the damage of that Skeledirge and its Incinerate.
That's true. Yeah, the Torch Song, I believe, has the same energy and damage as Disarming Voice.
Mm-hmm.
which was the previous moveset that Skeletor's was running through, but it instead has the same type attack bonus and the +1. So I think it is a strict upgrade. You are struggling a little bit more against the dark types, but I think that's where maybe that +1 on the Torch Song to the Incinerates might help to overcome it. I think against things like Guzzlord, you would want the disarming voice. So I think the moveset will be dependent upon what kind of meta it's in. But for the Open Great League, where you're not going to see too many Guzzlords, I think it'll be the preferred moveset.
It definitely depends on what meta we're looking at here, but I once again, I'm glad we got a little showcase of that new Community Day moveset there. Now that we've seen our first matchup, I think it might be time to look at the bracket and see where our first round has left us on the Zygarden site.
All right, this is navigating through the Zygarden site so we can see how everything is working. We did see a glimpse of the teams that the trainers are bringing there for a moment. So it looks like here we do see Final Boss AJ's team, Axon's team. Ooh, looks like we see a couple of Shadow Jump Pluff teams, and we do see a Pangoro there. I still see lots of Mud Slappers. It seems like Mud Slap and a Grass is perhaps key to this meta. Anything exciting that you're wanting to see on their list?
I'll be really interested to see that Blastoise from Its Axon. Getting that access to that rollout and being able to speed its way to Hydro Cannon now instead of slow go it with the water gun has proven really interesting in the Open Great League. So I will be interested to see how he pilots it. And yeah, he is rocking that Pangoro, which I think is one of the fighters that has gone a little unsung for a long time. Very glassy, but if you can pilot it right, it can put you into a really powerful situation in the end game. So that's a really interesting looking team for me.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. Pangoro, I think, got a buff just because of the help of having the resist to all of the Psy-Wave users that are in the meta, as well as the Furret that's in the meta now, resisting those sucker punches. All right, let's take a look and see if we can get this bracket pulled up here. Looks like the information is being hidden right now. But I guess one thing I did want to point out that we were able to see. All right, there we go. Looks like we have been able to have that revealed. So looks like Riblet took round 1 against Soph Toph. Steiner took the win against Zardy. Mish, as we were able to see, did get the win against Palasha. And Axon was able to take the win against Final Boss AJ. I think I lost your audio, Kaz. Sure. All right. Caster. All right. I think we can probably take a quick look at how. Okay.
Is it back up yet?
Yes, we do hear your audio again.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Okay. I don't know what happened. There was some sort of weird pop-up on Discord for a moment. Sorry about that, y'all.
No worries. We got you back. Things are working. But I think now we can take a look at how you can join the Zygarden and become a part of this thriving community.
Let's do it.
I'm thrilled to guide you through the Zygarden website, where your competitive Pokemon journey comes to life. To embark on this fantastic adventure, simply click on the link on your screen now. This will open the doors to the Zygarden landing page, where the magic begins. Here, you can effortlessly sign in using Google, Facebook, or Discord, empowering you to connect with fellow trainers from across the globe. As you set up your account, take a moment to infuse it with your unique spirit. Enter your in-game trainer name, friend code, country, and time zone. This is your introduction to the community where your presence will shine brightly.
As you can see, trainers, all you need is just to pick your favorite way to sign in, whether you want to link your Discord, link your Gmail, or log in through Facebook in order to get yourself connected and become part of the Zygarden.
Yes, and it is a really nice, cool new interface to interact with and see your tournaments from other organizers and see your teams lined up against other trainers.
I guess which matchup are... I don't know if you remember who was up there on the round 2.
I would
But
need
yeah, why don't
to...
we take a look back at the bracket?
Yes. So it looks like in our round 2, the pairings we'll have are Riblet versus Elendia Steinar. It's Axon versus Mish, and Zardy versus Softov, and Palasha versus Final Boss AJ. Not entirely sure who we're going to feature just yet, but once again, all of these trainers battling in this new meta are very exciting to watch. We've seen them perform across regionals around the world, and it's been interesting every single time.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see them. I know that we did get to see Softov recently casting over in Vancouver, where she did an excellent job.
Yes,
Oh, excuse me.
exactly. And Vancouver was such an interesting tournament since it felt like only half of sort of the changes that we'd all been getting used to were actually allowed because of the timing. Um, so you were only allowed to sort of use an updated attack if the Pokemon already had that attack available. So we did see the rise of a lot of Golisopod. We did see quite a few Emolga actually taking the field. And we saw some shifts in the attacks, the charged attacks chosen for some of the Pokemon we were already familiar with. Like, I was particularly interested to see a lot of trainers swapping to a double flying moveset for their Shadow Jumpluff.
Yes, actually, so I went to Vancouver. I wasn't
You
able
did!
to compete, unfortunately, but I did. I was staying with Katie 46, and her first round opponent was Rise to the Occasion.
Oh
And
no!
his team was one, since he's of course one of the featured trainers, his team was featured in the trainers took out for graphic before everything was revealed to everyone. And so I went, Katie, I got his team. Let's scrim right now. And so I think we had about an hour of prep, and so we knew he was running Golisopod because he had asked us for Wimpods to trade specifically, so we knew that was
I
on
did
there.
hear that he was asking many people for Wimpod.
Yeah, and the thing that was unfortunate for him was many people had Wimpods, but most of them were from 2020, 2021,
Oh no,
and
so many
and
lucky
they were
bugs.
exactly. So I think he said he got about 10 luckies with 5 of them being the first trade with trainers. So it was definitely a bit of a frustrating moment to him, but he got there. He got what he was looking for, and it was able to help him see the success that he was hoping for.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. What a crazy story. Looking for a Pokemon you want to use that day at the tournament.
Well, I think the same thing happened not too long ago for Elite, where he made a Shadow Kanto Marowak the day before during a Rocket event, and he was able to have success with that as well. So, if you feel confident, you know what you want, to run, even if you don't necessarily have the experience, but you can see the potential in something, then it's definitely worth going out and making the time to get it to make that your tournament performance be as successful as you know you need it to be with that key Pokemon.
And that is one of the joys of these regional experiences is interacting with other trainers, working together, even though you are technically competitors, but working together to make sure everyone has the Pokemon that they want to use. I know that I've been that one going to tournaments being like, do you have Glaring Corsola? Do you have Glaring Corsola? But now nobody needs it because of the night shift.
Like, that's true. I mean, I think Galarian Corsola is still a fantastic Pokemon, but I think now Dusclops has been buffed to be at the same level of potential. Maybe just slightly below, but I do think that it is interesting because of its access to Ice Punch, which does help it a lot with Diggersby, which we're not seeing as much of, but definitely the Jump Pluff that has absolutely exploded in usage.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see Jumpluff come along with that sort of the same attacks that we've seen, except the pacing now, is just slightly better. Um, really interesting to see that. And yeah, I would also argue that Dusk Noir, the evolution of Dusclops, has also become really interesting because it actually gets access to that dynamic punch for those normal types.
That's true. There are quite a few more normal types coming up in the meta, and so having that super effective damage for it is super helpful. And I do think that having that shadow, or excuse me, ghost and fighting typing is going to be more helpful for the Dusknoir, perhaps more than something like the Grumpig that we're seeing a little bit more of in GBL.
Yes. It's interesting. Grumpig is such an interesting pick because it's not the bulkiest Pokemon, but it does have access to very powerful moves, which now that it has that Psywave, it can get to so quickly. I know that there have been many a trainer out there not expecting to see that dynamic punch, let alone multiple dynamic punches stored away.
Oh, looks like we do see both trainers now locked in. We do have Softoph versus Zardy with a Shadow Drapion up against a Malamar, which did see a buff recently with Foul Play, requiring less damage. So each of these Psy Waves are going to be doing, I think, 2 damage to this Drapion, slowly chipping away at it. But this superpower is going to be some hard-hitting neutral damage, so Softoph throws up the first shield.
Yes, we do see that Drapion stacking up its own energy and actually saving that when we see a quick swap to Zardy's Azumarill, Softoph swapping to that shiny Lapras. What a beautiful Pokemon, and able to pretty healthily take these moves from Azumarill, stacking up some of that newly buffed Psy-Wave damage from this water ice type before going for that Skull Bash. Very powerful, not enough to KO, but does get the shield from Zardy and will buff that Lapras's defense.
And one of the things I do love about the Zygarden website is you can turn on the ability to flex your shinies for your opponents. You can let them know you've got a shiny. It will appear on the website just like it does on the graphics here.
Very, very cool feature indeed. We see another Psywave being reached by Softoph's Lapras and landing this time on the Azumarill. Still not quite enough to knock out. The Azumarill will get to another move, but a quick swap into the Malamar to catch this Sparkling Aria. Another new move on this Lapras that will do quite a bit of damage onto that Malamar.
And we do see the Malamar throwing immediately, but no, actually we get a combo play coming in from Soph with that crunch that was banked. Zardy forced to throw up the shield on this charge attack priority, and now Softoph decides this is enough. All I wanted to do was neutralize the Malamar and its energy. I can survive this and overfarm, farming up to double Aqua Tail before throwing against Zardy. This Malamar has no shields. Azu is low, so I think she's going to be they're going to be forced to come in with the Drapion, or maybe come in Azu, force the energy?
No, we do see the Shadow Drapion come out on the side of Zardi, hoping to get a little extra energy for the end game here, since all shields are down for the Latam trainer. And Softove able to pile on a little bit of extra damage with her Drapion before revealing the final Pokemon of Annihilate on her side. And this is a pretty poor position for that Shadow Drapion that remains for Zardi in the back, even with energy.
Nope, looks like Soph no shielding the first Aqua Tail, going straight for the Rage Fist. No catch coming in from Zardi, so this is going to be able to knock out, and is actually one away from the energy, but there's 3 Pokemon on Soph's side, so he does understand that there is nothing this Azumarill can do against 3 Pokemon, so a 3-ball flex for Softove to take game number 1.
Very cool to see there. Yeah, unfortunately, the pacing of Azumarill is still a little slow, as we were talking about. It doesn't have access to a very speedy charged attack there, so you would need multiple charged attacks to get rid of all the Pokemon that remained on Softove's side. So really brilliant display of of her flexibility there, of the flexibility of her team, and the power of getting that extra energy in reserve.
Definitely a battle of the water types, old and new, during that mid-game matchup. So deciding to go with the Skull Bash in order to be able to have a little bit more neutral play. Skull Bash over the Legacy Ice Beam, so that way you can not just hit the grass types, but be able to hit specifically that Azumarill. Otherwise, you'd be doing only resisted damage by your charge attacks, so able to have a lot more neutral play, buff up your defenses, and really put Lapras in a position where your opponent has to throw energy. They can't farm down. You buff up those defenses, you farm up energy, and so Soph really showing us how to play Lapras.
Yeah, the newly buffed Lapras at that. Yeah, really nice that the Skull Bash allowed the Lapras to sit there and take a few moves from that Azumarill as well. But also just like Drapion, still being there, still having so many attacks. What was that? 3 Aqua Tails, 4 Aqua Tails? Who can keep track?
Yeah, being able to go 1, 2, 3, 4 and just throw, it's amazing. It's the reason Nidoqueen got nerfed all that time ago. And Drapion's just still sitting atop the meta, being able to go 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and being able to hit those hard hitting moves. It really just has so much neutral play.
Yeah, exactly. And we do see quite a few different Pokemon approaching from both sides here. First up, we have a Mandibuzz on the side of Softove facing its mortal nemesis in the Azumarill from Zardi. A quick swap over to that Shadow Drapion to start stacking up some energy on the side of Softove.
And we do see Zardi deciding to stay in, go up to the play rough, and throw the Ice Beam. I expect a swap here, but actually no, he's going to decide to, stay in. And Soph electing not to throw, wants to, if her opponent swaps out, being able to have lots of energy going into the next matchup. So even though she can go 1 and throw, she's going to decide to go on the optimal move timing of 4 fast attacks in order to be able to leave with plenty of energy. This is still not going to KO, so no rush to be able to get off any of that energy until, oh, just here, could have thrown the Ice Beam, but no, is going to be able to get to this crunch, and I expect Zardi to let this go since this Drapion is now going to be out of energy, mirroring in with his own.
Yeah, exactly. Softove really relying on her Shadow Drapion here to force out something in the back, but instead ends up getting rid of that Azumarill and will be able to put quite a bit of damage on to the opposing Shadow Drapion before swapping back into the Mandibuzz, which can healthily take all of this damage from the Drapion. The Zardi farming up quite a bit there on that Shadow Drapion before opting to swap into the Credilli and catch the move there.
And we do see Soph actually choosing to run the Snarl move set, And I'm curious to see, is this the a Dark Pulse? Yes, that is what I
Mhm.
expected. I think that most Snarl Mandibuzz will be running Dark Pulse because of its greater energy efficiency, since it is able to reach them so quickly. But Zardy here farming up, able to get to the Rock Tomb, which is going to almost take out this Mandibuzz one more, and it's going to be able to chunk it down. And I expect, since it does also debuff the attack, that we'll be seeing no shields here. And we see a quick swap to the Drapion by Softoph, but Zardy's already at another Rock Tomb.
Yeah, this new access to Rock Tomb that Cordilli has put it in a really powerful position, not just to stack on damage from that charged attack, but also to debuff your opponent's attack every single time it is thrown. And that Cordilli now leaves the field in favor of the Shadow Drapion, remaining from Zardy, now faced up against the full health Shadow Galarian Wheezing waiting in the back from Softoph. Can healthily take that first Aqua Tail. But will we see the last shield being given up on this next one? No, still letting that damage pile on.
Yeah, so Zardy farmed up to about 100 energy on that
Mhm.
Drapion before switching out, so was able to throw almost three Aqua Tails there back to back. And we do now see throwing a Play Rough, or sorry, excuse me, the Brutal Swing, and then swapping out to the Mandibuzz, but Zardy just has so much energy and still has even shields. This is going to be a tough one for Soph.
Yeah, I mean, Mandibuzz is a very tanky bird, we all know, but eventually will have to give up a shield to one of these Aqua Tails. We do see another Snarl being thrown, but before the aerial ace, but then a catch from Zardy onto his very low health Cradilli, an attempt to undercharge there a little bit on the side of Softoph once she realizes this.
Yeah, that was a tough situation there. Sort of too much energy on all these Pokemon. Zardy is still trying to farm up as much as possible to leave as little wiggle room for Stoph with this Galarian Wheezing. I think one away, two away, and just
Mhm.
is not going to be able to pace to that brutal swing in time.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Galarian Wheezing left after throwing an attack, leaving it very defenseless there against the Drapion, which has already very excellently stacked energy onto multiple points throughout the game. So taking a win here to even up the score between these two talented trainers 1-1.
Yeah, that was absolutely incredible gameplay there. I thought Zardy had a huge advantage there towards the end game, but actually made it very, very close with Soph.
Yeah, they were definitely very close in like terms of HP on all their Pokemon as well. But I think that he did a little bit better job getting the energy advantage onto that Drapion, knowing that the power of multiple Aqua Tails in the bank would be very key to the end game victory there.
Now, we are seeing sort of the problem that can occur with bulky Pokemon that have non-threatening moves. It
Mhm.
allows your opponent to be in a position where they can choose how much overfarm they have. And I do think this is going to be an issue we're going to see with Azumarill, with the Mandibuzz. Although they are quite bulky Pokemon, their moves just don't threaten quite enough. And if your opponent can manage their energy well, overfarm, get a swap out, and bank that energy and save it for when it'll be more effective in the back, it's going to be really tough to be able to create a win con when your opponent creates that advantage for
Mhm.
themselves.
Yeah, we see this with Mandibuzz. Like we've seen this with Mandibuzz and Azumarill for a long time. And even though the pacing on Mandibuzz has gotten slightly better with that foul play, with the changes to Snarl, we still see it struggle just because those moves are not powerful enough. But as you mentioned, that's why we see Snarl as a fast attack often paired with Dark Pulse as one of the charged attacks because Dark Pulse hits just that little bit harder. So instead of stacking up more and more of the less powerful foul plays, you can do a little bit more damage with that Dark Pulse.
Yeah. We are still seeing just how flexible the Drapion is in this meta. Soph did bring the Diggersby onto her team. And oh, actually, let's see. We are into game number 3 with a Drapion into an Azumarill.
Yes, that Shadow Drapion now coming out on the side of Softove. And even though this matchup is a little strange because Drapion cannot do as much damage with its charged attacks, we see those poison stings adding up quite quickly and getting a lot of energy before swapping to the Lapras. We've seen this before. Lapras can take this play rough from Zardy pretty healthily.
Now, we did see a huge amount of farm there and absorbing all that energy with Lapras, and I think that's all that Lapras is going to be here for. I don't think Soph is going to commit any shields in this matchup with the Drapion. Even at this health range, it should be able to just barely survive a crunch and get to that Sparkling Aria.
And that Sparkling Aria does so much damage to this Shadow Drapion. That was quite a bit of health gone in a flash. And we see another Aqua Tail ready just in time to cut off this Lapras from reaching the next Sparkling Aria. One shield given up by Zardy, but none on our... Actually, no, he didn't actually have to give up a shield in that matchup. Both shields still in play for both trainers.
Yeah, exactly. Threw that Aqua Tail because he knew if he didn't, he would have to give up the shield. And even with the defense drop, we were able to see that Lapras able to hang on. And we do see some fast switches now. Drapion and Azu being squared up against each other. And a defense drop, so a quick swap out to Corviknight hitting the field now. And another crunch being thrown. This Drapion still has loads of energy.
Yes, so much energy. Still another crunch already on the way before this Corviknight can get to its first attack. So a shield being thrown up by Zardy to protect this bird so that it can start stacking some stand attack damage onto this Drapion.
This is going to be interesting. It looks like Zardy does recognize that the Drapion's energy was already at another Aqua Tail, and so throwing the Iron Head, which actually is enough to KO there. And so now we're going to see a Annihilate versus a Corviknight here. I believe each trainer has a shield apiece. First one going up for Zardy. No, actually Annihilate has 2 shields. I think this is going to be an Annihilate sweep here by Softove just being able to counter and Rage Fist down.
Yes, Zardy unfortunately did have to give up both shields a little bit earlier to protect his team, and now a quick swap into the Azumarill to really start amping up the pressure for Softove to give up those last 2 shields, which she does give up the first so that Annihilate can reach this Rage Fist. This will not quite be enough to knock out the Azumarill, I don't think. No, we have quite a few Rage Fists stacked already, but the Azumarill now quite low and the Annihilate able to counter down.
Yeah, since that was the not just the first Rage Fist, I believe that was the second Rage Fist that was being thrown, perhaps. And so it was able to do just enough damage to be able to get that Azumarill out of there, but without having to throw, so that it could be just off on the matchup against the Corviknight in order to be able to take game number 2 to take round 2 for Soph versus Zardy.
Very powerful play there from Softove, editing her lineup a little bit each time, and in that last match in particular, trusting in the power of Annihilate and 2 shields, proving that the ape can still do a lot of damage there in the end game.
Yeah, so against the Azumarill, Annihilate actually wins the 2 shields straight Rage Fist. So it is a very difficult Pokemon to overcome. If it has shields, it does not care about typing. The only thing you're going to be able to threaten it with is fast move damage. And Azumarill and Corviknight just unfortunately don't have that. They have charge move pressure that they can exert on the Annihilate, but it does not matter if Annihilate has shields.
Yeah, ultimately, those 2 Pokemon just don't have the pressure to level against their opponents as much as Annihilate does, as it keeps getting higher and higher with each of those Rage Fists thrown.
Yeah, I think I think some people have talked about how Annihilate, is it still have a place in the meta? Does it still maybe is going to struggle because of the all the Psywave users, especially Lapras. But I think since we do see just what can happen if you are able to commit those shields to Annihilate, that its place in the meta is going to be strongly solidified just because of the sweeping potential that it does have if you're able to bait out the strongest answers for it.
And I remember a lot of people were concerned when that counter was slowed down a little bit, but honestly, it's still working out really great for Annihilate in this meta, because it is a strong attack, and being boosted by that Rage Fist, even if it's a little bit slower than it used to be, still shows that it can be quite dominant against opponents that you wouldn't expect, like Azumarill.
Yeah, I was curious to see Zardy bringing that Gudra, since I have noticed that a lot of trainers seem to have um, bit of a dragon weakness, but I didn't make sense to bring it against Soph's team just because that Galarian Wheezing is such a threat against it. So I think that sort of neutralizes it. But it'll be interesting to see um, if Zardy. Actually, no, we do have one other trainer running a Gudra, so I'm curious to see if we'll be able to see some dragon going on in this tournament.
Yes, and with the completion of that match, I think we have all of our matches ready. So let's go down to the bracket.
Okay. Yeah, so we do see that Elendia Steiner did take the game against Riblet for round two, and Axon was able to get a win against Mish. And then we, of course, did see Soph get the win against Zardy, and AJ was able to take the win against Paulasha there. So I think if I'm reading this correctly, I think Axon is 2-0 right now. And Elendia Steinar is also 2-0. Yeah, beautiful there. So we do see the standings. So yes, Axon and Steinar are leading it there. We will be taking this to a top cut after round three. So it'll be interesting to see uh, who else is going to be able to join them in that two match wins, because that will be necessary in order to make it to that top four.
Yeah, exactly. Even though this is a smaller tournament, the way that the Swiss bracket is organized here will allow us to see even more from these trainers. Um, which is really exciting to be able to access on stream. And yes, we'll have to see who actually can catch up to our former world champion, it's Axon, as well as the incredibly talented Steinar from the LATAM region.
I'm excited. Steinar is the other trainer who is running a Gudra, so I'm hoping we can see some Gudra action. I think it'll have to be paired up against someone who isn't bringing the Shadow Galarian Wheezing, so it'll be a little bit difficult to see that gameplay. But we've still got I think 3 more rounds that we'll be able to see and potentially have an opportunity to see it on stream.
Exactly. But if you can avoid, I mean, Azumarill is going down in usage a little bit, not just in this tournament, but kind of across the board. And we do see fairies like Galarian Weezing starting to come up with access to a very flexible move set. But as long as you can avoid those few weaknesses, like a Pokemon like Gudra that can start stacking that neutral Dragon Breath damage could be very useful.
Which of these teams looks like the one that you think you would bring to a Show 6 tournament?
Here's the thing. I really like Misha's team just because there's no shadows on it. And that's my MO too. Like
Nisha's team? Yeah.
yes, because like I'm one of those person that's like, no, I was told to purify my Pokemon and help save them, so I don't use shadows. So seeing a team work without shadows on it this day and age is really nice. And I also really think these picks showcase some of the exciting things about this very new meta. Claydol having access to Rock Tomb, Skeledirge having that new Torch Song move as well, and the flexibility of that Furret that she showed off on stream. So that one kind of appeals to me a lot. What about you? Which one would you go for?
I really thought you were going to pick the Blastoise just because of
I
your love for the War Turtle
I
line.
do.
Um, but I think I might try and run something like Riblet's team. I did like the Dugong. I tried to give it a try, and the Bradley I think is going to see a lot more play. But I don't know. I tried to run a team this morning, and it didn't work out well, I'll say.
That is
So
all I would go for.
I'll have to go back to the drawing board. But now that we've seen a little bit about how the Zygarden website works, how you can sign up for it, why don't we take a look and see who are the people behind the Zygarden website?
Let's do it.
All right. Welcome back, trainers. Looks like we had a few difficulties, but I guess I will talk a little bit about some of the team members there, and hopefully we can get that worked out for a little bit later. But we do have some amazing team members of Jerps, Stella, Metaboo, Mr. Bonsai, Gund, uh, as the core members who are the website developers that have been hard at work on Zygarden for the past 2 years. And we do also have a few additional members who have been helping out with the project, such as myself, RC Cola, Dibbly Bravebird, and we do, of course, have as well our production team of Enhoff, James, and Hurricane Kaz in order to be able to bring this tournament stream to you today.
Yes,
But
it is exciting to see, all of the hard work that has produced such a fun new place to organize for our grassroots tournaments.
Yeah, they've been hard at work trying to make everything as beautiful and have everything flow as smoothly as possible for the community. We did have a sort of a alpha launch tournament in person over in the San Francisco Bay Area last year, where I was able to work with the local um, what is it called with the officially recognized person from Niantic for the
Uh,
community meetups? Community ambassador.
Professor?
The
Ambassador.
community ambassador. Yeah, so we had our community ambassador that I was able to work with in order to be able to put on a test tournament just to see how everything works, break all the things. And so yeah, since then I think it's been about 4 or 5 months, so I've been hard at work to fix any bugs and issues that come up, and I do really appreciate how responsive everyone is.
Yeah.
um,
It's important to break things first.
yes, yes, very much
And
so.
then so that you can fix them and make it better for everyone later.
Yeah. And I guess if we have one of the mods could maybe drop a link to the Discord as well, just because there is a channel there specifically for feedback, which is hugely important. This is
Mhm.
a team of people that are extremely passionate about Pokemon Go PvP and how they want to bring um, as good of an experience as they can to everyone. And so definitely join the Discord, join the community, become part of the conversation and making this website a continued improvement.
Yes.
Uh, cool. I think we can take a look at now how you can join a tournament on the Zygarden website.
Sounds great.
Trainers, Hurricane Kaz here. With your profile complete, navigate to the My Tournaments page. Here you'll discover all the thrilling tournaments that you've signed up for, each one an opportunity to challenge yourself and showcase your skills. To join these exhilarating tournaments, you'll need a special link accompanied by an invite code. This code will whisk you away to the main tournament page. There, a simple click on the register button at the top right will set your journey in motion. You'll then assemble a fierce team of 6 Pokemon. The depth and detail demanded for your team registration is at the discretion of the tournament organizer. They may wish to know your Pokemon's nicknames, combat power, HP, moves, best buddies, and whether or not they are purified. Don't forget, if shadow Pokemon are allowed, identifying them is essential. The move entry tool makes this process easier, displaying only the moves your Pokemon can learn.
All right. Welcome back, trainers.
Yeah, I gotta say, I do appreciate how simple it is to kind of like set up your account on this site and join a tournament. I participated in one of the smaller like beta tests that was just virtual, and everything, on the site was a super smooth experience for me. And I like the ability to kind of like when you're looking at your opponent toggle between kind of the side by side view or like the you know top and bottom view.
Yeah, I really like that as well. Um, I think it's probably like one of my favorite features to be able to just go between taking a look at the detailed view of my opponent's team and just sort of like a quick snapshot of seeing what are their their Pokemon because
Mhm.
one thing that I do find is difficult for myself sometimes when I'm at a play Pokemon tournament is seeing how the just the Pokemon on paper. It's a little more difficult for me to visualize it than it is just to be able to see all of them here, detailed laid out. Like having that image of the Pokemon is hugely important to me, and I do really like how everything on this interface is color coded as well. So if it's a grass type, you're going to be able to see a green move, a rock type matches the everything matches to how you'd see it in game. So
Mhm.
it feels a lot more of an immersive experience in the Pokemon Go world rather than just being like, here's my team sheet on this 11 by 9 piece of paper.
Yeah, I also am a visual learner, so I too really appreciate having access to like a color coded thing or an image that I have come to associate with this specific Pokemon. It's something that allows me also to pick up that information just a little bit more easily. Because yes, and I mean, you also have to take into account sometimes at the local tournaments, you have to deal with people's handwriting.
Very true.
Oh my goodness. Which can be its own challenge, but the text alone is also, challenging
Mm.
for me. So this website definitely makes it easy. It looks like we do have a little bit of a tournament update about our players. Um,
Yeah, it looks like we did have Palasha unfortunately have to drop out of the tournament. She was having some issues being able to play as optimally as she would like. And so, in the interest of keeping things running smoothly for everyone here, all of our participants, and for all of our viewers, she decided to remove herself, which it's tough. Like I understand, a lot of people have talked about the LATAM difference or the losing a fast move. That's very consistent in other areas like Australia. So appreciate you. I'm glad we were at least able to feature her battles on the first round.
for sure. Yeah, we've all been on the side of a worse internet experience than we would like. It's definitely unfortunate when it happens, but happy that she could be with us for the brief time she was here to help showcase this new platform.
And looks like for the third round, we are going to see Axon versus Steiner, Riblet versus Mish, and Soph versus AJ. So I don't think we've seen Steiner or Axon on stream. So if I had to guess,
They
they are
also
both the
they all
undefeated trainers right now.
exactly.
So
They both have to see who is gonna knock the other one out of that top spot before we reach a top cut. So it would be interesting to see how that matchup goes. Um,
looks like
but
we were able to guess correctly there. Again, a
yeah.
little bit of a peek behind the curtain there
Oh
of
boy.
yes, and production is confirming to us that Steiner and Axon will be up next. I'm just gonna pull up their teams here. So Axon is running
Wait.
the Blastoise with his Shadow Galarian Weezing, the Pangoro, his Dusclops, the Shadow Jumpluff, and the Gastrodon. I think it's the only Gastrodon in the tournament.
Certainly not the only mud slapper, but yes, the only Gastrodon to make an appearance. Really, it's a really interesting pick because I feel like I keep seeing people try to make it work, and I just
Mhm.
whenever I've used it myself, it just seems a little too inflexible. Your
Yeah,
moveset choices really lock you in a lot of matchups, and that can be really frustrating. So I'm excited to see some potential Gastrodon dominance on the stream here.
yeah, I do see that with that there is quite a bit of what's it called with it is a little um, RPS but I
Mhm.
do think that one of the things that is helpful in that matchup is that you are able to have a little bit more of the like a chip and dip strategy. I think becomes really critical for that, where you are able to sort of, you know, throw a charge move, swap out maybe with a bit of energy, and then be able to swap out to the Gastrodon. I did see Rise have success with the Gastrodon in the Vancouver Regional, so I do think that it puts a nice amount of pressure onto the opponent's team. But I am curious to see, since we do actually see Swalot on Steiner's side, I do think we might have the potential to see it, but then we do also have the Cradley protecting it as a check.
Yeah, exactly. The Swalot is such an interesting pick in this meta, because it does have a fairly flexible move set. I mean, it has Sludge Bomb, which we've seen grow into the meta a little bit more lately, and it has Ice Beam, and it also has access to Mud Slap, which is still a decently speedy, fast attack to get to those charged attacks. So I'll be interested to see if it sees any play, because it could be a really interesting pick. We do see that we are almost locked in with our trainers here, ready to go.
Oh,
Really
correct,
hope
son.
I'm gonna see that Blastoise. Honestly.
Yeah, it looks like I think production might have the wrong screen for us, so I'm gonna take a look on stream. But looks like we do have the Pangoro matched up against the Drapion,
Yes, and that
and
Drapion has already reached an Aqua Tail, as we've seen it do in so many matches before.
we do see a very fast pacing for those Aqua Tails here, doing tons of damage to
Mhm.
that Pangoro. It is loaded with energy, giving up a shield, and actually now
Ooh.
throwing the close combat waiting, but still making a catch onto the Gliscopod. Resisted damage. I think this is still, yep, it takes out almost half.
Golisopod is not known for being a bulky Pokemon, but we do see a swap now from Isaacson into his Jumpluff, ready to take on this bug type.
X's are doing neutral damage against that jump bluff with the Shadow Claws, bringing it down into the half health. So
Mhm.
Gliscopod taking a huge chunk of damage, but still able to deal a decent chunk of damage back before getting knocked out by the jump bluff. It's one away from that acrobatics, but so was the Drapion from the crunch. So it's going to win that charge attack priority, going to throw up the shield by accident, and now we have the huge amount of damage coming in and a no shield from Steiner.
Oh my gosh, willing to let this Drapion go now that it has done its job, and Axon now having no shields to protect itself, but the Jumpluff isn't, too bad off against the Credilli here. The Shadow Jumpluff has that attack boost, so does go for the more fast-paced Aerial Ace to get some damage onto this Pokemon.
Yeah, and Axon realizing here that all he really needs is as much chip as he can possibly get. And so since Steinar allowed him to get to yet another aerial ace before throwing, goes for it. And now Steinar realizing he's got to try and make the best of this situation, and so farms up all the way to 99 energy before throwing a move, but now is down to even shields, half health, has tons of energy. But I think this Dusclops is just what Axon needed in the back. This Rock Tomb
Mhm.
only taking about a quarter of the health off of it, and this Ice Punch, although it is debuffed, is still going to be able to hit for that super effective.
Doesn't quite knock out the Credilli. That Dusclops is so tanky. So we do see a quick swap from Axon into that Pangoro that is still loaded with energy to knock the rock grass type fossil off of the field.
Yeah.
Axon taking the first point there.
That was a very nice combo play we saw there. I thought that Axon there was trying to make a catch, but he went, nope, I'm right there at the Night Slash. Doesn't matter. Throw at me. I get my move off. I'm going to get this win.
Exactly. The Dusclops being in the back, I think you're absolutely right, was very key for Axon there because of its bulk, right? Even though the Credilli had energy stored, it just wasn't enough to knock that very tanky ghost off of the field. And that's not a sentence we actually hear very often,
A
tanky
tanky
ghost.
ghost, yeah. There's not too many of them in the meta, but that Dusclops really is able to fill that role.
Mhm.
Similarly to how the Corsola, I guess, was kind of filling the role, but I do think that Dusclops has is higher on the bulk side than the Corsola is.
Exactly. And Dusclops does have access to, I think, a little bit better moveset for this current meta. That Ice Punch, as you said, coming in handy for the grass types you do encounter. Shadow Punch also being a speedy option. But even though we don't see it here, Dusclops does have access to its own powerful move in the form of Poltegeist as well.
That's true. Yeah, that hard hitting charge move could be a threat, and I think that the threat of that might be more something that is thought about in the context of the Go Battle League, and I think just the consistent ice punch damage is what we'll be seeing
Yeah, exactly.
um,
The
over
consistency
here.
of those charged attacks, I think, is really important. But sometimes it's nice to have that surprise.
So we do see a jump pluff into a Marowak now, and a quick swap out into the Dusclops, and then a Swalot being matched up against here. I actually have no idea how this matchup is going to go.
Well, the Swalot is going to want to go for those ice beams because they're neutral against the Dusclops instead of being resisted like the Sludge Bomb is. So it's going to be sort of a who can outbulk who because neither of them are doing a ton of damage, but they are slowly chipping away.
Yeah, I do think that that Dusclops, just with that pacing, is going to make it work, but yes, thank you. But that ice beam now is going to be curious to see, is it going to be Jets just shy of being
Mhm.
able to get the knockout? And so I think because it takes 3 charge moves to knock out the Dusclops here, it's going to really put some pressure onto this Swalot.
But
Oh, but
even that
no.
Shadow Punch is not enough, and Swalot can get to another Ice Beam. Will we see a shield to protect the Dusclops? No, going to let that tanky Ghost, having done its job, off of the field. And Axon now coming back in with that jump left to get a little bit of farm. Very smart play there. Since the Fairy Wind is resisted, you're able to get just a few more of them into this jump left.
Yeah, that was huge there, not being able to just get one, but 2 fairy winds to knock that out. That's going to be a massive energy advantage here. And you know, if your opponent brings in a bug type Golisopod, that whatever's hiding in the back doesn't want to see this jump pluff either.
Exactly. The Golisopod, as you pointed out, is able to stack quite a bit of damage with those X scissors, even though they are neutral. But the faster pacing of Jumpluff now forcing the first shield finally off of Steinar. And really stacking on more energy before giving up another the shield on Axon's side to protect that Jumpluff and the I think almost 2 aerial aces now.
Yeah, so I think it was a very smart play by Axon there to not give up a shield early, not to tip off Steinar into knowing that he's doesn't want to see that Golisopod in the back with that Pangoro, and then going for the late shield, going for a huge amount of overfarm here now. But Steinar, no shielding the acrobatics, trying to call the bait, and now he's gonna have to try and land this rock slide, but Axon throwing up the shield doesn't even want to show the Pangoro.
Exactly, being like, I don't even need that that fighting dark type. This shadow jump can handle everything you've got left. And certainly stacking on quite a bit of damage. Landing that acrobatics very key. The mud The mud bomb now will, or bone club rather,
Mm.
will land, but it doesn't even knock
Ooh.
out the shadow jump bluff, able to get to yet another aerial ace or an acrobatics even. Will it ever end?
Axon going for the BM, knowing that Steinar would not be able to make it to the rock slide and that the Bone Club was not going to be enough, so goes for the acrobatics just to show how in control he was of that endgame.
What a demonstration of how useful the new pacing of that double flying moveset can be on the Shadow Jump Bluff. And I mean, it does help that he had a little bit of a lineup advantage, I feel like, there in the end game, the Jump Bluff being primed for victory against both a bug type and a ground type.
Yeah, definitely Jump Pluff was able to be positioned well, and so going for that energy advantage was key there, as it didn't matter where the Jump Pluff was, all he needed was that energy advantage to be able to put in the work to make Jump Pluff sweep, which I think is one of the key things that we'll be seeing with Jump Pluff. If you can put it into a position where it gets just a tiny bit of energy advantage where it's farming something down, then the
Mhm.
threat of that acrobatics is so immense that it doesn't matter your typing. I think actually when I looked up, since we did see some of the Shadow Helix in the meta for the Vancouver regional, that even without Energy Ball, the Jump Pluff is able to beat Steelix straight, just throwing acrobatics, which is absolutely insane. All right. I think we might have a slight audio issue with you again, Kaz, but we can get that sorted out in a second. But let's take a quick look over here at the bracket now. We can see for the conclusion of round 3, we were able to see Axon as the only trainer who has a 3-0 going into the top cut of this tournament.
All right,
Uh,
is my audio back now?
yes, yes.
Great. I don't know why Discord keeps deciding that my mic is done, but but apparently it just doesn't like it. But yes, Axon now progressing as the 3-0 victor in this tournament into our top cut.
You want to go over the rest of the how the round 3 went?
So our round 3 scores look like Axon taking the 2-0 against Steinar, Ryblet taking the 2-0 against Mish, Soph Toph taking a 2-0 against Final Boss AJ, and Zardy really conquering that bye.
So looks like our top 4 going into the top cut are Axon, Riblet, Steinar, and Soph. And so here we can see one of the features that are so fantastic about the Zygarden website as a platform is now that we have entered the top cut, that has become another tab that is selectable, and you can see the top cut happening in this bracket now, with Axon and Soph being paired up against each other, with Elendia, Steinar, and Riblet also being paired against each other to see who will get to the finals.
Exactly right. This is a really nice feature of the Zygarden website to be able to kind of seamlessly go between the regular bracket that everybody starts in and to that top cut. Having a nice seamless way to do Swiss tournaments like this, I think is really enjoyable.
Yeah, not having to do any additional work, have the website figure it all out for you, definitely takes a lot of pressure off tournament hosts, takes less of the guesswork. There is no bias that anyone might be introducing by doing anything other than just plugging it all in and having it progress.
Exactly. Um, just again, goes to show the power of the experience on this new platform. And it's still pretty customizable by, various tournament organizers based on the meta you want to do, the type of tournament you want to host, as well as how many players you have. And I know that there are also other settings where you don't necessarily, the round will progress automatically as soon as everyone's score has reported, or the mod admins can go in there and progress it as well. So being able to have that flexibility is really nice.
All right, and I think we can show everyone now also exactly what the user side of the experience is, taking a look at matchups on the Zygarden website.
Let's do it.
Hello trainers, Hurricane Kaz here. As the excitement builds and a tournament officially begins, a bracket will be unveiled, revealing the path to glory. Each round, you'll face off against formidable opponents, and thanks to the side-by-side viewing option, you'll easily compare your team with theirs. After an epic battle, you and your opponent will input your scores for the match. When all battles have concluded and scores are submitted, tournament organizers will advance the tournament to the next exhilarating round. They also have the power to automatically progress rounds once all scores are in, keeping the momentum alive.
All right, we are back at it, trainers. So as you can see, that was what Kaz and I were talking about a little bit earlier with the seamlessness of the side by side and then the detailed view. There's just a little button at the top there for you to click.
Very cool. And I do think it looks like we're going to be able to feature all of our top cut matches today. So we've seen, I think the only trainer we haven't actually seen on our stream yet is Ryblet. So very excited to see his. Let's go back and check out what his team is. He does have the Credilli, the Mandibuzz, the Annihilate, the Gliscopod, the Shadow Drapion, and that Dugong that you called out earlier.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see if Dugong still has a place in this meta. I do think it does, just because there isn't a lot of ice type damage coming from anything else. The only other thing I see doing that at this point is the Alolan Sand Slash, but that is a little bit harder to navigate since it does take double super effective damage from fighting and also takes single super effective damage from ground, so the Mud Slappers and Annihilate could pose a problem.
Yeah, exactly. I've been often very surprised right, that how much damage those Mud Slappers can do to the Alolan Sandslash. That's why you see so many of these Sandslash swapping back to the Ice type fast attack of Powder Snow instead of that Community Day Shadow Claw. The neutral damage from Shadow Claw is no longer as useful for this Ice Steel type as it used to be. And I do think that Dugong certainly has a place in this meta. It's one of those Pokemon where it's pretty versatile with its moveset, having access to not only the Ice type charge attack, but also that Drill Run, which can so neutrally hit a lot of Pokemon.
I think we're probably going to see some Dugong action from Riblet, because taking a look at the teams here, it's got super effective damage into everything on Steinar's team except for the Gliscopod. So I think as long as Riblet is able to put in coverage against that Gliscopod, we should be able to see it work well. And so like taking a look at that, I mean, Shadow Drapion is so neutral and consistent that I do think that it might be able to make an appearance. And we do see Air Slash Mandibuzz on Riblet's side, so I'm curious to see if maybe he tries to pair the Dugong and the Mandibuzz together in order to
Mhm.
be able to kind of cover that Golisopod weakness. Maybe either having that Drapion as a safe swap or potentially running it in the lead to kind of have a neutral matchup to be able to control switch.
Well, we've also seen that Credilli featured on stream already, and I do think that that could have a role in checking the Golisopod as well. It certainly Golisopod can do a lot of damage with X Scissor, but those new rock tombs are no joke.
I do agree. I do like Cradily for Riblet as well. I like it slightly less for Steinar just because of the Annihilate that we see.
Mhm.
But um, other than that, it really seems pretty fine as well. It doesn't seem too bad. You just don't want to see it locked in against that Annihilate. So potentially, but I guess I'm looking at this. I don't know that Riblet actually wants to bring the Annihilate, but he doesn't have that good of matchups because of the Swalot and the Golisopod and the Marowak just being able to just shield through.
Yeah, there's no real solid targets. It can certainly do well against the Credilli. It can certainly do well against the Shadow Drapion. But everything else is just kind of like, how many Rage Fists can I stack?
Yeah. I mean, it is the Rage Monkey Pokemon. So if you don't want to see Hulk angry and you don't want to see Annihilate angry either.
Exactly. And again, that counter, I'm often surprised by how much damage it still does, even if it is slowed down a little bit. Um, but Riblet has, I I I don't think that he'll bring out the ape. I'd like to see the Mandibuzz paired up with that Dugong, I think.
Yeah, I think that is going to be a lot of neutral play. I do. Okay, and we do see both trainers locked in. We do see Riblet coming in with that Dugong and LNDS Steinar coming in with the Swalot.
This is a pretty good matchup for the Dugong simply because of access to that drill run. Swalot does have access to Sludge now, which it paces to very quickly with that Mud Shot. The first one, how much damage will this do? Dugong, not impressed.
That tickled a little bit. I do think that this drill run is going to be probably putting it just about half health because it is quite a bulky Pokemon with the Swalot. So it will just be 2 drill runs to knock out the Swalot, whereas it looks like it might take it to just below half health
Hmm.
with this next sludge. So I'm curious to see how much Riblet is going to overfarm and
Oh,
anticipating that that is going to happen doesn't want it to. And so throwing the Icy Wind from Riblet onto the Gliscopod, I expect to see a swap, but actually is deciding to farm up a little bit of extra energy since he does have such a hard win with the Air Slash Mandibuzz.
yeah, that Dugong able to stay in that matchup, kind of like, you know what? You got a catch there. That was nice. I'm going to stack a little bit more energy so I'm ready with this Dugong in the back. Especially because, as you point out, this is an overwhelmingly dominant matchup for the Mandibuzz, even though Aqua Jet, newly buffed, is coming out very quickly from that Golisopod on Steinar's side.
Yeah, a lot of what Golisopod really relies on is not just how fast its pacing is, but the pressure that those Shadow Claws are able to push onto the Pokemon. And with Mandibuzz's Dark typing, it just can't do it. But now, farming up some energy with the Golisopod, making a switch to the Swallow, throwing the Sludge, and Mandibuzz just barely able to hang on, getting off this Dark Pulse? Foul play, actually.
Foul
No, foul play.
play. Yeah,
Oh,
because of the air slash on that Mandibuzz, foul play pacing a little bit quicker does seem to be the better choice. And we do see a little snipe there.
that
Riblet
was
bringing in that Shadow Drapion.
a beautiful undercharge there to be able to switch in the Drapion, get the energy advantage, understanding that whatever's in the back, as long as it's not Marowak, we've got this.
Exactly. And we do see the first Aquatail now finally being thrown from Riblet onto the opposing Shadow Drapion. Actually, Steinar throwing up a shield there to even it out. Another Aquatail being forced from Riblet's Drapion.
Yeah, I think that both trainers at this point are recognizing that these Drapion are going to be able to be the most significant Pokemon that they have left. Everything in the back is low health. Some things have just a tiny bit of energy, but it's going to have to come down to a catch for Steinar on that Golisopod in order to be able to make this work, because otherwise it's just got so much to do with the energy advantage this Drapion had. He can just stay in knowing he can survive this Aqua Tail. So I'm really excited to see what's going to happen in the next two fast attacks here.
Exactly. The question is always, when is the catch going to come? And here it is. We do see an Aquatail being thrown onto the Golisopod from Steinar, patiently waiting for the opportunity. And now a quick swap to the Mandibuzz from Riblet to put the pain onto the Shadow Drapion remaining for Steinar. This is just enough to knock that Pokemon off of the field, and another nice little 3-ball flex there from Riblet.
Yeah, Steinar really trying to do everything he could to come back in that match, but it was just too dominant of a matchup for Riblet being able to have his Air slash Mandibuzz up against that Golisopod, being able to farm up with the Dugong and to just really come out of that matchup without having to shield, being able to get the farm down, and Steinar being forced to continue to give up swap advantage, and just it was too dominant of a matchup to be locked in there at the start.
Yeah, and that Dugong, I'm pretty sure, was still waiting in energy in the back, like checking its little water watch. Like, when do you need me? Where am I at? But Mandibuzz had the whole thing handled.
Yeah, Mandibuzz really punishing the Golisopod there.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
I
it's a
expect we'll. Hmm?
I was just gonna say, it's unfortunate when you get locked into a matchup like that. Maybe a Snarl Mandibuzz would have been a little less painful for Steinar to deal with there. Not just because of the different pacing, but because you're not taking as much damage from the fast attack alone. But unfortunately, that air slash put Riblet in a really strong position.
Yeah, I do think that LNDS Steinar is going to make a pivot. I'm curious to see if that pivot will be the Cradily rather than the Golisopod, since it's going to have such a dominant uh, matchup into, or I guess not dominant, but a lot more neutral play that's going to be available to it against the Mandibuzz, against the Dugong, than the Golisopod was able to have. I think that's
Mhm.
probably the adjustment that we'll see from Steinar. And looks like we're about to find out right now as both trainers are locked in.
And we do see this matchup between Annihilate and Swalot on the field. Really interesting here. Neither able to do entirely super effective damage to the other.
Yeah, this is a little bit awkward for the Annihilate, as you will be able to get ramped up, and the
Mhm.
Swalot does at least have the ability to throw Ice Beam, which is going to be neutral, but I'm curious to see. Nope, going straight for it. I thought maybe we might see a bait, but I'm curious to know how much Ice Beam does. Actually, a solid chunk.
Ooh.
Looks like about the same amount that an Azu would do with its Ice Beam. And
Mhm.
actually, oh my goodness, we do see Riblet recognizing that this is going to be a matchup he's going to have to give up shields in, so goes for the close
My
combat,
God.
hoping for the knockout. But LNDS Steinar hanging in there. He knows what he's doing. This is why he's brought this bulky poison type.
Exactly. That poison sludge Pokemon being able to withstand even a boosted close combat. So we do see the Annihilate knocked off of the field, and Golisopod coming in from Riblet there to countered by the Shadow Drapion over on Steinar's side.
Ooh, we do see a beautiful catch coming in here on the side of Riblet, taking a crunch. and successfully, skillfully avoiding a debuff there from that Drapion.
Very skillful indeed. And this is another situation where the Air Slash Mandibuzz does give it a slight advantage here, able to do some pretty significant damage just with fast attack alone onto this Shadow Drapion. Whereas the Snarl Mandibuzz is going to be kind of chugging away at aerial aces in this scenario instead. The Drapion getting quite low now just because of that fast attack pressure and a quick swap to catch the next aerial ace from Steinar's side onto his Gudra.
And we do get to see that Gudra in play. I was looking forward to it. I was excited, curious to see how Steinar was going to make an adjustment for this matchup. And looks like he has chosen that Gudra just to be able to have that neutral Dragon Breath pressure, which I think is going to come in quite handy here against this Golisopod. But unfortunately, it was a charge attack priority with Golisopod winning it here. Both trainers doing some damage to each other, but actually a shield going up on the side of the Golisopod. Is it going to be able to farm down? Yes, it is, and it's got so much energy here. Are we
Wow,
going to see a
what
peekaboo?
we might, but no, the Golisopod does get to the Aqua Jet here, forcing a shield from Steinar to protect his Shadow Drapion, which does have energy onto it. And we do see a quick swap to catch the next Aqua Jet onto this very low health Swalot. What a beautiful play there from LNDS Steinar.
And we did see Steinar attempt to go for the peekaboo there. Was unsuccessful, but that's okay. Says, if I can't do it on the first charge move, I'll do it on the second one. And now it's off to the races. But this Mandibuzz is already at the aerial ace. And I think this is going to be able to knock out this Drapion. And so Riplet is going to be able to take this game 2-0.
Very beautiful play there in the end game from both trainers. Steinar doing everything he could to try and secure a win condition there with the flexibility of the swaps. But unfortunately, Ryblet just having too much energy and a shield left to deal with those remaining Pokemon. Especially that farm down from the Golisopod there, incredibly key to the end game there for Ryblet.
Yeah, I really thought that how that initial matchup was starting out with the Annihilate on Riblet's side not able to get the knockout and the Swallow able to hang on. I really thought the momentum was going to swing in Steinar's favor, but like you said, just the energy farm of that Golisopod was so strong that without a Mandibuzz to check that energy, that farm, there was just too much to be able to make a comeback from.
Exactly. And really showing off the power of that newly buffed Golisopod. We did see it feature quite a bit in sort of this in-between meta of this past weekend in the Play Pokemon circuit, but I wouldn't be surprised if it continues into the next set of tournaments we see as we get everything kind of unlocked and available.
Now, why don't we go and take a look at the matchup of Axon and Softop to see what teams they are going to be bringing to us here.
So yeah, Axon having that Blastoise, the Shadow Weezing, Pangoro, Dusclops, Shadow Jumpluff, and that Gastrodon that you mentioned. Softop also having her own Shadow Weezing, the Lapras, the Shadow Drapion, Mandibuzz, Diggersby, and the Annihilate. So some really interesting picks on each side and a lot of neutral matchups here.
I think that the Blastoise is a lot of neutral play into Soph's team for Axon. And likewise, I do think that Galarian Weezing for both trainers is going to actually do quite well.
Yeah, I think Softop has a few more targets since Pangoro looks mighty tasty for Galarian Weezing. And being a Pokemon that likes to kind of stack up a lot of energy and be able to throw those close combats really quickly in an endgame, I think that that could be a place where Softove and her Shadow Galarian Weezing can shine.
Agreed. I think I'm trying to see. I think also the jump pluff on Axon's side has quite a bit of play as long as it can avoid the Wheezing and the Drapion. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be able to really hard punish the Annihilate, the Mandibuzz, the Lapras, the Diggersby. I mean, even if it has to go up against the Drapion, it won't be too bad since it'll be able to hit really hard and put on some pressure with that acrobatics.
Yeah, running acrobatics now, that Drapion is not as strong in that matchup as maybe it used to feel. So it does have reason to fear that flying grass type. Um, But I think you're right. I think the Blastoise actually has a really decent amount of neutral play, and I'm really hoping we get to see it on the field. Rollout paces to that Hydro Cannon very quickly, and Blastoise actually has Skull Bash of its own, like the Lapras that we've seen from Softove already. So that could also come into play in making that slightly bulky turtle even bulkier.
Yeah, I think that the Blastoise is really going to be problematic, where Soph is going to have a harder time relying on that Lapras like she did last time we were able to see her. And looks like both trainers are locked in, and we're going to see. Ooh, this is tough for
Oh
Soph. Gastrodon onto the Galarian Weezing, and a quick switch into the Diggersby met with a Blastoise. This
no!
momentum is hard in Axon's favor.
Yeah, exactly. From one tough matchup to another. But fortunately, Diggersby is pretty quick to those Scorching Sands. We see the first one get that Blastoise to almost half health before the first Hydro Cannon is thrown. This is going to do quite a bit of damage, but won't knock out the very tanky Diggersby, so it can remain on the field. But Blastoise already has another Hydro Cannon ready.
Yeah, Axon there recognizing it's not always best to throw on optimal timing if your opponent is going to make it to the move before you. So able to put on the pressure there onto Soph by throwing the Hydro Cannon as soon as it was available. Soph throwing on optimal timing just before the Hydro Cannon is loaded for Axon, but now Axon is able to throw again before Softove is able to get to her next charge move and deciding to let it go, realizing she is going to be continue to be outpaced as the quick attacks were not going to be quite enough to be able to knock out the Blastoise.
Yeah, exactly. And she has a tough choice between her two back Pokemon here. The Weezing, the Shadow Galarian Weezing now coming in to try and get some chip damage and some farm onto it before a quick swap to the Annihilate to get that Blastoise off of the field. But now Axon, knowing that he has the matchup he wants in the back, can safely go into the Shadow Jumpluff against this Annihilate.
Yeah, this is a bit of rock paper scissors going on here with the matchups in Axon's favor here, being able to have the Gastrodon on the Weezing, the Blastoise on the Diggersby, and the Jump Pluff on the Annihilate. These aerial aces and fairy winds just doing super effective damage to the Annihilate, and actually electing to let this go. This is the second Rage Fist, but it still doesn't KO. Switch clock isn't quite up. Axon goes for the acrobatics just to be able to get a clean knockout with no nonsense just before switch clock is
Mhm.
available to both trainers. Oh,
Yeah.
actually electing to stay in, trying to, yes, he does make it just barely in time to the aerial ace, and now this Weezing is loaded with energy, but it's going to get knocked out. Gastrodon just being able to comfortably hit that one out as it just made a quick jump scare appearance for that Weezing at the start of the match.
Well, that Shadow Galarian Weezing was able to get a little bit of extra energy, but unfortunately, the charged attacks on it, the Sludge and that brutal swing were just not going to be enough for that nearly full health Gastrodon that we saw in the lead from Ixaxin. So Softove, unfortunately, knowing she needed all the energy in the world and was not going to be able to get it.
Yeah, I think even with 100 energy, that the Galarian Weezing wasn't going to be able to get there, just because with the mud slaps that were going to sneak in between each of those charge moves were going to be enough to get the knockout on that Galarian Weezing.
Yeah, but the Blastoise really coming in handy there for its accent, able to not just get rid of that Diggersby, but kind of put pressure on to that Galarian Weezing, even as it tried to come in and get that little bit of extra energy that Softove thought might help her in the end game.
Yeah, it makes it very difficult for Soph to bring Mandibuzz or Lapras, which she leaned against when we saw her battles featured earlier. So
Mhm.
that Blastoise really a core breaker for the Pokemon she was bringing, as she did have to lean onto that Diggersby and Annihilate in that matchup, but she just wasn't able to get the alignment. And so Axon, realizing that she was going to try and go for something more neutral, knowing that it was likely going to be that Galarian Weezing or that Drapion, and so throwing that Gastrodon in the lead, knowing that even if it got lined up against something, it was going to be able to have some neutral play.
Yeah, and we do see our trainers have locked in their teams for their second battle. Galarian Weezing coming out now on the side of Ixaxin versus the Mandibuzz over on the side of Softove. A quick swap to her own Galarian Weezing, but Axon now has the energy to throw the first sludge.
And this time he did not bring the Gastrodon. He left it on the bench, came in with Blastoise and Jumpluff. So this is probably the best situation that he can find his Galarian Weezing in,
Mhm.
since he does have a Blastoise for that Mandibuzz that he saw in the lead. So as long as he can control Switch here, he should be able to get the alignment that he needs.
Yeah, he's honestly probably relieved to see the mirror match here because it is the best matchup here. But Softove is already stacked so much energy onto her Weezing as its accent paces to the moves just slightly ahead of her. She knows she's going to need this energy in the end game, and a quick swap to catch the sludge on her Annihilate. This is neutral damage here and doesn't quite do enough to the Annihilate to threaten a shield. So the first Rage Fist coming across now, but lands on another catch on its Axon side now. His Shadow Jumpluff coming onto the field to counter the Annihilate.
Yeah, beautifully done by Soph, recognizing that she was going to be able to, or was going to have to be forced to try and protect that Weezing at all costs, use both shields, put in as much work as possible, making the catch, sacrificing the Annihilate, realizing it wasn't going to be the most useful Pokemon in this matchup, but she doesn't know about the Blastoise in the back yet. She does have tons of energy on this Weezing. She's trying to farm up as much as she possibly can. Axon only able to make it to an Aerial Ace, just wanting to get a little bit of chip. Soph going all the way to 100, throwing the sludge. No shield by Axon. And so now it's going to be Mandibuzz with a little bit of help coming in from this Weezing. Oh, as she makes a quick catch.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Softove is stuck with that Mandibuzz in the back, and the Galarian Weezing from its accent side still has energy to throw, and these Fairy Winds really are starting to chunk away.
And so now we do see the Blastoise being revealed, leaving with a charge move banked on that Galarian Weezing in the back. I imagine that this is going to be just a yeah, and so charge move getting reached here on the Mandibuzz. Axon electing to go for a back-to-back Hydro Cannon before throwing the energy. No, actually deciding to go for the Skull Bash here.
I have it. There are no shields. Why not use it? Says the Blastoise. Does
I'm curious, does this mean, oh, he does survive, but being forced to throw here for this with this brutal swing, but since there is a shield left on the sides of its Axon, he is going to be able to throw this charge move here and get the knockout in order to be able to take this 2-0 against Softoph.
And I think my audio should be back now because apparently it still hates me. But that was quite an exciting end game there. I mean, Softoph really doing everything she could to try and secure a win condition, being very flexible with those swaps, with that energy. But unfortunately, the Blastoise in the back, Axon recognized the strength of that Pokemon and really invested in it.
Yeah, we do. So it does mean we will be seeing Axon and Riblet for our grand finals matchup.
What an exciting matchup it is. In the standings currently, Axon still sitting with the higher win count here.
It's true. I think he hasn't lost at all.
No, not yet anyway. But Riblet is making a play there for the grand final against the former world champion. And taking a look at their teams, let's see. I mean, Riblet does have a pretty strong answer to that Blastoise with the form of the Cradily. So I wouldn't be surprised if, after seeing how strong the Blastoise has been before, that Cradily does come out to play.
Yeah, I'm going to be very curious to see how this matchup is going to shake. Let me pull up. Yeah, I mean, that Blastoise is going to be quite strong for its Axon. I do like that as a strong core breaker. Looks like we are able to take almost. But then for Steinar, yeah, because Steinar does have the Golisopod, so that those rollouts are going to be difficult to manage.
Do you mean Axon?
Axon has the Blastoise, so the rollouts are going to be difficult for the Golisopod to handle, is what I mean to say, which he did lean on quite a bit.
Yeah, because I mean, they do have a lot of pretty neutral matchups here, but the Pangoro, I don't think has as much wiggle room against Riblet's team, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's left on the bench as well. But I'll be excited to see these picks from these trainers. Two very unique teams up against one another. Different grasses, different fighters, different flyers.
Yeah, let's take a look at how you can host a tournament and set one up on the Zygarden website before the next matches.
Sounds great.
I'll think.
Hello trainers, Telegraph Train here looking at tournament creation. To create a tournament, the first step is to sign in. Once you've signed in, journey over to the dashboard. From there, navigate to My Tournaments. In the top right corner, you'll find a vibrant green button labeled New Tournament. Click on that to embark on your exciting first step in hosting a tournament. Fill in the details, including your tournament name, start date, and time. On the next page, you'll set up the tournament format. While we currently support solo play, we have more options on the horizon. Your tournament can be structured as Swiss, round robin, single, or double elimination. You have the power to add an additional format to determine how the top contenders clash in an epic showdown to claim victory. We offer a variety of meta options that are refined based on community feedback. You can also have the flexibility to modify how many battles each trainers play per round and set a maximum number of participants up to 256. On the following page, adjust the round length, allowing your tournament to unfold over a few hours, days, or even weeks of thrilling gameplay. Then, you can also decide what details participants must share as they enter their Pokemon into the Grand Arena. Finally, craft the description for your tournament, sharing the important information participants should be aware of. This is a great place to include Discord invite links so players can interact and coordinate their battles. To grab the link to send out to your participants, simply click back into the tournament. Make sure it concludes with invite code equals so that players can register smoothly. We look forward to seeing you on the battlefield. And I'm here with Zygarden to talk to you about Pokemon typing. There are 18 types in Pokemon Go, and they all interact differently with one another. The types of damage we'll be talking about today are super effective, which you can see with a plus, not very effective, which you can see with a minus, and neutral, which means damage is applied normally. To emphasize this point, we'll be taking a look at fire, grass, and water type. These are 3 elemental types in Pokemon Go that interact in sort of a triangle. Fire is super effective against grass. Grass is super effective against water. And water is super effective against fire. These 3 types keep each other in a balance. But let's flip those arrows around and take a look at resistances, or not very effective damage. These move types will do reduced damage in this relationship. Fire is not very effective against water. Water is not very effective against grass. And grass is not very effective against fire. In addition, all of these types resist damage from their own typing. That means water resists water, fire resists fire, and grass resists grass. There are a lot more typings to explore in Pokemon Go, but that's all for now. See you back on the battlefield.
All right, welcome back, trainers. I'm very excited to see our grand finals play up. We've got Axon versus Riblet.
Yes, it should be a very exciting matchup. I do believe that these we haven't seen them battle yet in this tournament, but I believe they're familiar with one another. And interesting to see their 2 teams lined up against one another because there are a lot of neutral matchups here, and they've chosen very different Pokemon for each kind of role on the team.
That's true, actually. These 2 trainers don't have a single Pokemon in common.
They do not. Totally unique final 12 that we have here. As we were kind of talking about earlier, it'll be interesting to see their choices. I do think the Credilli from Riblet could cause a bit of a thorn in its Axon side. It has neutral and super effective moves for everything on the field from Isaacson.
Yeah, definitely seeing that Credilli is going to make some problems, especially since Blastoise looks so strong into Riblet's team. So I think that interplay, seeing who can avoid or get that matchup to line up, is going to be able to swing a lot of the matchup. I do think that also the Galarian Weezing is looking pretty strong for its accents. I might see a pairing of those 2. But we do need some sort of harder checks to that Credilli, so maybe be leaning on the Pangoro, the Dusclops, or the Jump Pluff.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that matchup with Pangoro is because it's relying on close combat, it's not always in the best position against the Credilli if that Credilli has been able to get a little bit of an energy advantage. But Credilli is on the slower side with that Bullet Seed.
Yeah, I do think that since Riblet has the Annihilate, that Pangoro is a less appealing pick to bring. So I think might be leaning more on that Dusclops or that Jumpluff. Jumpluff has been so fantastic for Axon during this tournament that I do think he will happily lean on it again. But let's find out as both trainers are locked in.
Yes, and we see a Shadow Drapion on the field for Riblet up against the Pangoro from its Axon. This is the matchup, one of the matchups where that Pangoro does want to be, even though it is relying on that self-debuffing move of close combat to do meaningful damage. The first Aqua Tail coming across from Riblet's Shadow Drapion.
Yeah, we do see the Aquatail being reached at a slightly faster pacing than Pangoro is able to achieve. So the Aquatail will be loaded on the Drapion after this charge move, throwing up the shield, and I do expect we'll see a shield on Axon's side as well. Yes, as he does have the close combat loaded, which could threaten the knockout. He went for the bait the first time. Let's see if he's going to go straight for it this time. Oh, he does, and Riblet lets it go, knowing that most of the energy is going to be expended from this Pangoro, so boom, knocks it out.
Right off of the field. This Pangoro does have a little bit of energy left, so it will have to make a quick swap if it wants to stay on the field. But no, another close combat coming across from its Axon. Even though this is resisted by the Golisopod, it will do quite a bit of neutral damage.
Yeah, that Pangoro absolutely put in work. It won the lead, and it also took out half the health of the next Pokemon. Close combat, doesn't care about typing, doesn't care that this is resisted, and now the Blastoise is lined up doing super effective rollout damage onto the Golisopod. But Axon, realizing that this Golisopod was going to make it to another charge move, already being at half health, deciding to throw the Hydro Cannon and a shield going up on Riblet's side.
Yeah, exactly. Wanting to protect all of this energy, staying in a little bit longer to throw another X Scissor will not get shielded from its Axon. And this Blastoise has done a lot, but now will be making way for the Shadow Galarian Weezing, the last shield protecting this Pokemon for its Axon before the Golisopod leaves the field to reveal a Mandibuzz in the back. And the Shadow Weezing is certainly happy to see that.
Yeah, so just as that Pangoro put in a ton of work for Axon, that Golisopod was put in a ton of work for the Riblet, and so now both of these Pokemon in the zero shield scenario, just with a slight energy advantage for the Weezing. I'm curious to see. I don't think this Sludge is going to knock out. No, it is not. And so, are we going to see, yes, the Aerial Ace being thrown? I don't know if this is going to be enough. I think that the Weezing might be able to get to a charge move just barely in time.
Yeah, the Fairy Wind does slightly outpace to that Sludge just before the Mandibuzz can get to that next Aerial Ace. So the Weezing, even though in a tough spot here in the end, able to outpace and land the Sludge, knocking that Mandibuzz off of the field, giving the first win to its Axon.
And we do see their friendship going up there, so they might have run into each other before, but now they're friends.
Now they're actually friends. So touching. Yeah, that Blastoise playing another key role for its Axon in these battles here. But even though its Axon didn't quite know what was in the back, really trusting in the ability of that Shadow Galarian Weezing to work its way around, especially with a shield advantage.
Just that fast pacing was able to do so much in that end matchup, being able to have the super effective Fairy Winds and being able to go 5-4 to those Sludges. Just really was able to have a dominant position in the end there. And really at that end game was kind of terrifying, as both trainers had it was like, all right, let's see what's in the back, but none of us have shields. Let's see what we can do. And it
Well,
was
if you're its Axon and you come into the Golisopod
Mhm.
with the Blastoise, and the Blastoise and the Golisopod doesn't immediately swap out, it kind of makes you think, huh, I think I know what might be in the back. But we do have our next matchup here. It's Axon on the field with Shadow Jumpluff against Riblet's Golisopod. So a quick swap from Riblet into that Shadow Drapion.
Yeah, so once again see the Jumpluff in a dominant matchup up against a bug type, and Axon going for the chip and dip strategy of just getting off an Aerial Ace, which takes out half of Shadow Drapion's health. But Shadow Drapion is very fast and has an energy advantage, so it's definitely going to be able to throw back-to-back Aqua Tails here that are going to put this Galarian Wheezing low. So although this Drapion was significantly hurt, it's going to be able to take back switch here by throwing up a shield, as Galarian Wheezing throwing up no shields is going to be able to get farmed down.
Yeah, the Poison Sting doing just enough against that Shadow Pokemon that the Drapion can come back into this matchup against the Shadow Jumpluff with energy to throw a crunch here. Jumpluff in kind of a tough position, but Axon once again relying on the strength of that Blastoise in the back. 2 shields still in play.
Yeah, throwing just one move before the Drapion is able to get to a move, and so now Riblet's got a shield to try and make this work, but unfortunately, like you said, that Blastoise is here, and it's got super effective rollouts for the Golisopod, for the Mandibuzz. We did see this matchup play out a little bit in game number 1, where that Golisopod was actually able to put in a decent amount of work with the neutral Shadow Claws. Oh my goodness! This
Here
is going
comes
to
the
be
Skull Bash! Oh, so
boom!
much
Huge
damage!
amount of damage.
And it buffs the defense of this Blastoise, making it even more tanky than usual. These rollouts are starting to chunk away at the Mandibuzz. It's still quite healthy, but now we have multiple Hydro Cannons stacked from its Axon, ready to take on the tanky bird. And if I remember correctly, that Jumpluff, even though low health, does have some energy in the back as well.
Yeah, that was a huge shield call there by Riblet to let that Skull Bash go, as it's really setting up this Blastoise to just stay in, force Mandibuzz's energy onto it, and just put out Hydro Cannon after Hydro Cannon, as
Oh
this
my
Mandibuzz just can't do enough.
No, not enough and not fast enough, especially, like I said, after that first Skull Bash buffed the defense of this Blastoise. And another one now coming across, really wanting to go ahead and get this Mandibuzz off the shield. It survives with 1 HP, only to be taken out by a single Fairy Wind from that Shadow Jumpluff. Excellent play there from its Axon, and well played to Riblet as well, showing off some of these newly buffed moves in the season of Might and Mastery here in Pokemon Go. But its Axon is going to take the win for this first Zygarden public tournament.
Yeah, so Riblet really wanting to make that Golisopod and Mandibuzz work, but as we saw, Axon put in pressure in the semifinals. Same way with that Blastoise, just those rollouts and Hydro Cannons, it hits so hard against the meta that it really puts so much pressure, not just in fast moves, but in charge moves against his opponents, that it's hard to overcome. And I'm curious now. I wasn't sure about Blastoise's place in the meta, but it seems like it's going to be an excellent core breaker against what we've seen so much of.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a good core breaker for some of the incoming Pokemon that new trainers might want to try out. So I for one look forward to seeing more of one of my favorite starters on the field. And it looks like Axon having won our grand finals there. We will be able to do an interview. It looks like production is lining that up for us right now.
I'm very excited to hear Axon's thoughts on this new meta, how he feels about the Zygarden website and his whole tournament experience.
Yeah, exactly. We have seen Ixaxon do well at Play Pokemon in the Play Pokemon circuit, obviously, since he's still wearing that world champion fit. So it'll be interesting to get his perspective on team building in this new season as well.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone wants to pick world champion's brain to see what do I do in this meta? How do I team build? What is the secret sauce? Is it Blastoise?
I mean, if this tournament is any example, I am a true Blastoise believer. Oh,
Oh,
and
I
it
do
looks like
think Axon is in here.
yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. So how are you feeling? Did you what do you feel like your MVP for that tournament was?
You know, I had a lot of Pokemon that had a lot of play in each of the rounds. I think Blastoise was probably my best pick that was just always pretty neutral against my opponents. But Shadow Galarian Weezing was also a lot of fun, and Shadow Jumpluff with just the double nukes or double flying moveset is just, I don't know, if you're not using a Pokemon that just hardballs flying type damage, even the poison types aren't really that good of a counter for it. So I'd say it's kind of a toss-up between Blastoise, Weezing, and Jumpluff for me.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the win. What how was your experience with the Zygarden tournament interface today?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. It's very smooth, very clean. I love how the graphics look. And as far as the tournament ran, very smooth. And it was a great time. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I was so glad we could connect in Vancouver to be able to get you onboarded here because I know everyone is always curious to see what your thoughts are on anything Pokemon Go, especially in a competitive format like this.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I love the show 6 format. This new meta is so crazy. So, like, we haven't even seen like a full regional yet in this new meta. We had Vancouver, which is kind of in between. So I didn't really know what to use at this one. I just kind of threw some really fun Pokemon together. I thought Blastoise would be a pretty cool pick. I wanted to try out Pangoro as well a little bit. And I mean, I think in this new meta, there's just so many different Pokemon that I think you could make work. I don't know where like the top 6 usage Pokemon are going to be down the line like a month from now. It's probably gonna be so different than it is right now, and I'm just so excited that at the very least this team was good enough for this meta.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think that any of these team members you picked today are going to make their way onto your next tournament team?
Yeah, so my next tournament that I'm going to be going to myself is Portland. So there's a good chance some of these Pokemon will, but also that is a long time away. So there's a chance that the meta is so much different then. But I have to imagine, like Weezing, I've loved Weezing. I used Weezing at Vancouver as well. So maybe Weezing, maybe Shadow Jumpluff. Probably not Dusclops. I just kind of slapped that guy on there because it kind of filled a bit of a hole in my team. But I wasn't super happy with using it today. But Blastoise as well. Maybe Blastoise could be a pick that I might bring as well.
Yeah,
Well,
it
I
seems.
for one am excited for more Blastoise.
Yeah, Kaz is a big fan of the Squirtle line, so we're excited to see some Blastoise plays going on. It seemed like it really core broke a lot of your opponent's teams. Anyone who brought Mandibuzz and anyone who wanted to bring Lapras really struggled, and we did see a decent amount of Golisopod in this meta as well, like especially with your last matchup where Riblet was really trying to make that Golisopod and Mandibuzz work, but you were able to just make that Blastoise be positioned in such a way where it was a hard punishing that line and core breaking that line.
Yeah, I mean, even though Rollout got nerfed here this season, it's just Hydro Cannon is such a spammy move, and we really haven't had too many Pokemon just in general that are so good that also have a defense boosting move, and Blastoise takes perfect advantage of that. Even if it gets shielded up, a defense boosted Blastoise spamming out Hydro Cannons after the fact is a very scary thing, and unless your opponent has like, I don't know, a superior or just some sort of hard answer to you, then like even the Annihilates that do resist rollout, or the Jumpluffs that in theory you're their grass type into your water type, they're not that hard of an answer to it. And I feel like Blastoise could just kind of take over that Feraligatr spot as just a very neutral water type that also, unlike Feraligatr, is able to deal with the flyers a lot better with that rollout fast move pressure and also have access to just a bit more utility with that defense boost.
Yeah, a 4-3-3-3 Hydro Cannon is quite scary.
Yeah, do you think that Jumpluff will be the de facto grass type to use in this format?
It's so weird. I don't even see Jumpluff as a grass type right now. I feel like you could have two grass types on a team, one Jumpluff, and then I've seen like Jumpluff and Cradily be options that people have ran in the past, but maybe even just like a better grass type that's more hard answering to the water types, like a Superior or even a Chestnut maybe down the line as a way to just hard wall a couple of these top meta picks. I don't think that Jumpluff is necessarily the grass type. You use Jumpluff as a flying type Pokemon on a lot of these teams. And because of that, I think that there's still a lot of open room for other grass types, although they will have to struggle against the flying and grass type Pokemon here.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Since a lot of people are rocking that double flying move set like you did in this tournament and like Rise did in Vancouver, just acrobatics hits so hard that it does not care about typing. All you need is access to be able to get that nuke off.
Yeah, exactly. Once you get off Hurricane, or not Hurricane, Acrobatics rather, it's just such a strong move to have. And I didn't ever land it on a Shadow Drapion, I don't believe, in this tournament, but in matchups like that, where Shadow Galarian Weezing, you just destroy basically anything that doesn't resist the move. So it's very flexible as long as there's not like a Alolan Sand Slash or something on the opposing team. And I feel like its usage is probably just going to stay the same, if not just increase over the next couple of weeks and months here.
Do you think we'll see more ice types come back into the meta to try and counter the rise of something like this grass flyer?
It's kind of funny because I figured Lapras would be a very strong and common Pokemon in this new update. It feels like Lapras is kind of underwhelming in a lot of the common matchups though right now. And if it ends up running Ice Beam and Surf, it's going to open up the door a little bit more for like just Dugong maybe to come back. Alolan Sandslash does kind of struggle against Lapras, so if Lapras is still pretty common, I don't think A-Slash would be super usable. But I feel like Dugong honestly might be a Pokemon that could have some play. Although then again, it does struggle against Blastoise, so I don't know if I'd want to recommend that.
Yeah, it's looking like that Blastoise is really going to be a fantastic core breaker for a lot of the things that were in the old meta and things that people are going to be trying to adjust to in the meta. Just being able to have that rock type fast move pressure with the pacing of Hydro Cannon, yeah, is really going to put out some pressure onto people that's going to make them uncomfortable in ways that Pokemon like Azu is not able to navigate. It's just forces your opponent, throw energy, knock me out. You're not getting any over farm because if you do, there's another Hydro Cannon inbound.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Rock in the past has been a pretty underutilized typing. That is, Bastiodon was probably the main one you saw, at least in GBL. You saw some interesting people try it out in Show 6 formats as well. But for the most part, Rock has been pretty absent. We have also seen other rollout users like Dunsparce in the past, but Dunsparce has always had the big problem where it only has non-stab charge move pressure. So even when you're in a good matchup, it's not exactly a really great matchup because Drill Run is not going to be getting that same type attack bonus. Neither is Rock Slide, which is not a great move. Blastoise, it has Rock type coverage. It has amazing Water type coverage. It has great utility, and it's basically a Pokemon like in an archetype of Pokemon that we've really never seen before.
Yeah, I'm excited to see more Blastoise action. I think Kaz is too. I'm
We
I'm
all know.
inspired to bring that to the next local and test it out for myself.
Yeah, same here.
Well,
Yeah, definitely give it a go. It's a very fun Pokemon. Honestly, it's not even that hard to use. You just spam out Hydro Cannons unless you want that defense boost.
so just like the Nidoqueen, 1, 2, 3, 4, throw.
Yeah, pretty much. You just spam them out as quick as you can.
Exactly, exactly. Well, thank you so much for telling us a little bit more about your team and for taking part in this tournament to show off the new Zygarden platform.
Of course, thanks again for having me.
Yeah, congratulations on the win and appreciate you being a part of this and so glad that you were able to enjoy your time in this tournament and navigating and showcasing the Zygarden website. Thank you.
Yep.
So we did complete the tournament. We do have our final standings available on the site if we want to go ahead and take a look over there. Its Axon is the reigning champ of this Zygarden is starting launch tournament.
Yes. So we can see the standings there that are broken down into the bracket play and the top cut place that you can see Axon getting a 3-0 sweep in the bracket play and then getting again a sweep in the top cut. So just absolutely putting on a wonderful showcase of how to navigate through this meta. And also, I'm glad you guys could join us to see how to navigate through the Zygarden website.
Yes, it's been awesome to introduce this platform to everyone else. And thank you to all of our trainers for participating. Ryblit, Softof, LNDS, Steinar, Zardi, and Palasha, Final Boss, AJ, and Mish for coming on this journey into the Zygarden today.
Yeah, so thank you again, trainers, for wandering through the garden with us, and we hope you stop to smell the flowers on your way to joining us by making an account and hosting your own tournaments here on the Zygarden website.